The infant silverback, no larger than a 3-year-old child, sat on the same moss-slick log every dawn, knees drawn to chest, black eyes fixed on the far fence where the world ended and the jungle began. The other juveniles, Quito, Mwezi, and little Nala, tumbled through the lower branches of the artificial fig, shrieking with the careless joy of the mothered. He never joined them, not since the night the poachers' floodlights had bleached the Congo green, and the crack of a single rifle had folded his mother over him like a broken umbrella. The keepers called him Juma after the day he was born. They had tried everything: warmed blankets, recorded maternal grunts, the patient arms of surrogate females. Nothing moved him. He ate only when hunger cramped him into a corner. He slept only when exhaustion dragged him down. Visitors saw a quiet baby gorilla. The keepers saw a small black hole wearing fur. At 10:17 on a Tuesday that smelled of wet concrete and overripe bananas, the zoo's north gate disgorged 47 8-year-olds in neon green shirts. They ricocheted between the flamingos and the meerkats, a storm of juice boxes and shrieks. One child lagged behind the cyclone. Her name was Lila Okoye, though the teachers still called her the new girl. 6 weeks earlier, a drunk driver had turned her parents' sedan into origami on the interstate. Since then, she had spoken exactly 11 words, all of them yes, no, or bathroom. She carried no stuffed animal, no blanket, only the weight of a silence so complete it bent the air around her. Lila's class surged toward the reptile house. She stayed by the gorilla moat, palms pressed to the outer glass, watching Juma watch nothing. A maintenance door, left ajar by a keeper juggling trash bags and a radio, yawned behind the service hedge. No alarm chirped, no guard patrolled. Lila glanced once at the retreating backs of her classmates, then slipped through. The service corridor smelled of bleach and primate musk. Her sneakers, secondhand, a half-size too big, made no sound on the rubber mats. At the end, a waist-high gate opened onto the enclosure's night yard, a half-acre of engineered rainforest, mist curling from hidden nozzles, the distant rumble of a manufactured waterfall. Juma sat in the middle, 20 feet away, exactly where the public glass would have framed him for photographs. He lifted his head. Their eyes locked. Lila did not hesitate. Children who have lost everything learn a different calculus of risk. She crossed the gravel path, stepped over a puddle reflecting the gray sky, and stopped an arm's length from the log. Juma unfolded like a dark flower. He was smaller than she expected, his shoulders narrow, the silver streak on his back still only a rumor. He studied her the way a mathematician studies an equation that might save the world. Then he did the impossible. He walked forward and wrapped his arms around her waist. The hug was not cinematic. No swelling strings, no slow motion. Just the warm, slightly damp weight of a grieving primate pressing his face into the hollow beneath her collarbone. Lila's arms rose of their own accord, fingers threading through the coarse guard hairs at his nape. She felt the tremor in his rib cage, the same tremor that lived in her own. For the first time since the funeral, her lungs remembered how to fill completely. Behind the one-way glass of the keeper station, intern Diego Ramirez dropped an entire tray of enrichment toys. Ceramic bowls shattered like gunshots. "Madre de Dios!" he yelped into his radio. "Niña dentro! Repito, niña dentro del habitat!" Alarms, soft, whooping, designed not to panic the animals, began their lament. Boots pounded. Radios crackled. The zoo's incident commander, Dr. Hannah Cho, sprinted from the vet clinic still clutching a half-eaten protein bar. But inside the night yard, the world had shrunk to the diameter of 2 heartbeats. Juma's breath steamed against Lila's neck. She smelled milk formula and crushed leaves on him. He smelled salt and something metallic. Grief, perhaps, on her. Neither moved to let go. Dr. Cho arrived at the observation window with a sedation rifle she immediately lowered. "Stand down," she ordered, voice shaking. "Nobody breaches until I say." Through the glass, she saw what the rule book had no protocol for. A human child and a gorilla infant, locked in an embrace so mutual it looked choreographed by sorrow itself. The headkeeper, Solomon Okello, an ex-field researcher with a limp from a snare wire and a voice like river stones, pushed through the gathering crowd. He took one look and felt the years collapse. 23 years earlier, in the Virungas, he had carried Juma's mother out of a poacher's camp, her body still warm, the infant screaming against his chest. He had promised her, in Swahili and in silence, that the child would live. Now the child clung to another child, and Solomon's promise felt suddenly, terrifyingly fragile. "Names," he demanded. "Girl is Lila Okoye," a chaperone read from the roster, voice cracking. "Foster placement, 6 weeks, car accident, parents DOA." Solomon closed his eyes. 2 orphans, 1 cage, 1 open door. He exhaled through his teeth. "No tranks, no nets. We do this gentle or we don't do it at all." Outside, parents screamed Lila's name. News drones buzzed overhead like vultures. Inside, the hug endured. Hours became a vigil. Keepers rotated in pairs, speaking in whispers. They slid water bottles and cut fruit through the service hatch. Juma ignored the mango. Lila drank half the water and poured the rest into his mouth, the way her father used to share soda with her on front porches that no longer existed. Night fell. Floodlights bathed the enclosure in cold white. Solomon slept on the floor of the keeper booth, boots still on, radio clutched like a teddy bear. At 3:12 a.m., the zoo's behavioral psychologist, Dr. Amara Patel, arrived from Nairobi on the red-eye. She watched the infrared feed. 2 small heat signatures fused into one larger, steadier glow. "They're thermoregulating each other," she murmured, "and mirroring respiration. This isn't attachment. This is resonance." Dawn painted the mist gold. Juma and Lila sat hip to hip on the log, sharing a blanket a keeper had tossed over the moat. Lila's lips moved. Solomon leaned toward the parabolic mic. And the car made this noise like paper ripping, and then everything was quiet except the rain on the roof. Mommy didn't answer when I called. I waited for the song she sings when I have nightmares, but it never came. Juma's massive hand patted her knee twice, the gorilla equivalent of, "I'm here." Solomon felt his throat close. He had heard that patting rhythm before, from Juma's mother, the night she died. By day 3, the zoo director threatened closure. The board threatened lawsuits. Solomon threatened to resign on live television. Dr. Patel threatened to publish if anyone laid a finger on the pair. Stalemate. They tried separation protocols. Favorite keepers approached with treats. Juma bared milk teeth and drummed warning beats on the ground. Lila wrapped her arms tighter around his neck. Plan failed. On day 5, veteran keeper Maria Oduya, grandmother of 6, speaker of 4 Bantu dialects, sat cross-legged just inside the service gate and began to tell stories. Not about gorillas. About her own childhood in the shadow of Kilimanjaro. About losing her brother to malaria. About the goat who followed her everywhere until the day it didn't. She spoke in Kikamba, then Swahili, then English, letting the languages braid like vines. Juma's ears swiveled. Lila's shoulders dropped a fraction. Maria never asked them to separate. She simply became part of the landscape, a talking tree bearing the fruit of patience. Day 7. Lila laughed. It was a small sound, like a pebble skipping across water, but it ricocheted through every speaker in the control room. Juma had discovered her ticklish spot beneath the ribs. She squealed. He hooted. The sound bounced off the artificial cliffs and came back brighter. Day 10. Lila took 3 voluntary steps toward Maria. Juma followed, knuckles dragging, but did not protest when Maria offered a slice of starfruit. He watched Lila eat first, then accepted his own piece from her fingers. Trust. Transferred. Day 14. Solomon opened the inner gate and sat inside with them. He brought no food, only a photograph. Juma's mother, mid-silverback, mid-yawn, sunlight striping her fur. He laid it on the ground between them. Lila traced the image with a cautious finger. Juma touched it, then touched Lila's cheek, then touched the photo again. A triangle of recognition. That night, Lila spoke her first full sentence to a human. "He dreams about guns," she told Solomon. "I hold his hand so the guns stay outside the dream." Solomon did not sleep. Week 3. Structured visits began. Lila entered through the public gate at 10 a.m., accompanied by Dr. Patel and Maria. Juma waited at the glass, bouncing on all fours. They spent 2 hours, grooming, stacking enrichment boxes into towers, racing to the top of the rope bridge. At noon, Lila left with a wave. Juma watched until she vanished, then climbed to the highest branch and sat, small fists opening and closing like a heartbeat. Week 6. The zoo built a transition yard, a pie slice between habitats, visible to both gorilla and human sides. Lila spent afternoons there, doing homework while Juma mirrored her on his side of the mesh, copying the way she held a pencil, the way she chewed her lower lip when concentrating on spelling words. Teachers reported her reading level had jumped 2 grades. Keepers reported Juma had begun playing with the other juveniles, tentatively, like someone testing thin ice. Month 3. Adoption Day. Lila's new parents, both park rangers, both childless, both approved after a vetting process that made background checks look gentle, stood at the enclosure gate in matching khaki. Lila wore a dress the color of new leaves. She hugged Juma goodbye with the solemnity of a diplomat signing a treaty. He pressed his forehead to hers, a gorilla kiss. Then he did something no one expected. He took the stuffed gorilla Lila's new mother had brought, identical to the one Lila slept with, and placed it gently in the arms of Nala, the smallest juvenile, who had begun to shadow him like a remora. A passing of the torch. Lila cried then, but they were the kind of tears that leave you lighter. Epilogue, 1 year later. The plaque outside the nursery reads, "For Juma and Lila, who taught us that some doors open from the inside." Juma, now a gangly adolescent with a silver saddle blazing across his back, leads a troop of 4 orphans confiscated from a trafficker's crate in Mombasa. He grooms them with the same deliberate strokes Lila once used on his fur. At Tenuous every Saturday, a girl in a green camp t-shirt presses her palm to the glass. Juma meets it with his own. They do not speak. They never needed to. Behind Lila, her mothers, one biological in memory, one chosen in life. Watch with quiet pride. Behind Juma, 4 small gorillas climb his back like a living jungle gym. The zoo no longer sells tickets to their encounter. They sell hope instead, measured in the length of a child's smile and the depth of a gorilla's trust. And on the log where it all began, someone has carved 2 words into the moss. Still here. If you like the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video.